Take it away, Nikki.
All right, welcome everybody. My name is Nikki. I am one of the coaches and owners of Joy at Work. We're a coaching company, obviously. Welcome to our February class. So I'm super excited to introduce my friend and fellow coach, Whitney Wells. And she is going to teach you a class called Chasing Control. All you, Whitney.
All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome. So today we're going to talk about chasing control, and I'm going to give you the number one way to be in control of your life. I'm going to teach you what has been so beneficial for me, what has changed my life, and possibly offer you a different way of looking at things. Now, of course, I want you to decide what works best for you. But for the next hour of teaching and coaching, I invite you to hear and think about these concepts and how they could possibly benefit you and your life with an open mind. I'm going to do some teaching about the number one way to be in control of your life, feel empowered no matter what is happening around you. And then I will answer any questions. And then I'll coach anyone who wants to come on for some coaching, and we'll have some fun. All right. So if you have any questions throughout this, just jump in the Q&A, ask away, and I'll answer those at the end of the teaching. Now, before I get started, here is a fun fact about me and one of the reasons why I love this topic so much and why it's so interesting to me. I am a self-proclaimed control enthusiast. Now, what is that? Well, I like to control the things in my life, the world around me, the people. Now, I have to say that before learning this simple shift, I was doing it all wrong. And I want to give you the answer today. All right, so I want you to think about these two questions and raise your hand if either are true for you. Do you ever feel frustrated with the world around you or the people around you? Do you ever wish that they would change in some way so that you could feel better? All right, I see some hands being raised. And I also want you to think about these. Do you ever think they should or shouldn't act that way? I'm stressed because of my job or finances or kids or all the things that I have to get done. Do you ever think I wish they would change this one thing and I would feel better? Now, if so, you're in the right place because I have the solution for you. What I'm going to go over in this class is why we try to control, outward control, what that is, the solution, which is inward control, and how to implement inward control to benefit your life and relationships. And by the end of this, you will have the number one way to be fully in control of your life, feel better, and live intentionally, no matter what is occurring around you. I'm going to give you a simple shift that is life-changing. Now, I want you to take a second to think about a specific time that you wanted someone to behave differently. And jump in the Q&A and tell me if they did what you wanted, they changed in this way that you wanted them to. They did this thing, they said the words that you wanted them to say. Maybe they stopped doing something. What feeling do you think you would feel? Let's see. I'm going to pop down to the Q&A. Relief. Anyone else have a feeling? Better, happier. Yeah. All right. So during this class, I suggest applying what I'm teaching to your specific example, to this specific way that this person would change, right? See how it could benefit you in your life. Now, we're going to start off with why we actually want to control in the first place. Well, the simple answer is to feel better. We want to feel better. We don't want to feel negative feelings, so we try and control things to feel better. We want to escape feeling some negative feelings such as fear, worry, pain, sadness, hurt, frustration, to name a few. Now, this control usually shows up in the form of outward control because we often believe that the things happening outside of us are the reasons we are feeling these negative feelings in the first place. For instance, my job makes me miserable, or I would be happy if my partner would do this or that, or I am frustrated because my kids won't listen. That one comes up for me a lot. And therefore, if we believe that your job or your partner or your kids makes us feel some feeling, then we need to change or control the people or the things around us to escape these negative feelings, to ultimately feel better. But I'm going to show you why outward control doesn't work and why it doesn't need to work for you to feel better. And then I'm going to give you what does work. So first, let's take a closer look at outward control and what it is. Outward control is trying to control the things and the people around us. So trying to control other people's words or actions, trying to control factual things that exist in the world, the circumstances in the world. Outward control is trying to control the things outside of us. Now, why do we turn our control outward to the world and people around us? Well, we are taught this. As young children, we are often taught that the things happening outside of us cause and create our feelings, such as they hurt your feelings by what they did or said, or what you said made your friend feel sad, right? So, of course, this makes sense because we are taught this and we believe it to be true. So, if we combine why we want to control in the first place, which is to feel better, and that we believe other people and things around us create our feelings, of course, we want to turn our control outward to solve for this, to fix our pain, to feel better. So, it makes complete sense that we often turn our control outward. But what are we actually creating for ourselves when we turn this control outward? Let's look at that. Outward control creates disempowerment, and we oftentimes feel at the mercy of others. We are giving our power away to others or the outside world by putting them or the things around us in charge of our feelings. Outward control is so exhausting. It oftentimes creates disconnection. In reality, trying to control other people, the outside world, the things around us, it's impossible. No matter how hard we may try, people are going to behave how they want. So trying to control them is so exhausting because we are trying to do the impossible. And on top of that, controlling other people usually creates this disconnection. For instance, if I'm trying to force my son or my husband to behave differently, this is not enjoyable for me or for them. So now we know why we want to control, right? To feel better. We went over what outward control is, which is trying to control the people and the world around us. We went over why we so often turn our control outward because we're taught this. And we looked at what it actually creates for us when we try to control the people in the world around us, which is exhaustion, disempowerment, and feeling helpless. Now let's look at a real life example to see this in action, to see why outward control doesn't work and why it doesn't need to work. So my son, he is in virtual kindergarten, and he most of the time listens. Most of the time he sits and listens to the teacher and things are smooth. But sometimes, like the other day, he was jumping around, playing with his toys, pulling books off the shelf, not listening to the teacher. And this was very frustrating. He wasn't listening to me either, trying to get him to sit in a seat. And I just kept thinking it'd be so much easier if he would just listen and sit still. He should listen to the teacher. Now, this is my story, right? And it involves some facts and it involves some thoughts and feelings. Now, let's separate them out to see exactly what's going on. Now, the facts are that my son was not sitting in a seat. He took 5 books off of his bookshelf while the teacher was giving him instructions. That's all. Everything else in my story consists of thoughts and feelings. Now, one of my thoughts is he should listen to the teacher. And one of my feelings that's created is I was frustrated. So when I believe that my son's actions are creating my feelings of frustration, I need his behavior to change in order to feel better. If we believe that other people or the world create our feelings, then the only way to feel better would be to change or control them, right? So we often think outward control is the solution to feel better. But here's why outward control doesn't work, and it doesn't need to. What if I told you my thoughts create my feelings, not what my son does or doesn't do? Now, if your brain is arguing with you about this, right? Maybe it's freaking out, saying, no, really, the things and the people outside of me create how I feel. I just invite you to try this on. Try on for the rest of this class. Your thoughts create your feelings, not anyone or anything else. And you can go right back to believing otherwise, but it can't hurt to explore this. So let's challenge what we were taught as children. So, what is the proof that my thoughts create my feelings and not the actions or words of others? Well, I can have a different thought about the same facts and create a different feeling for myself. Let's look at this. Now, the facts are my son was not sitting in his seat. He took 5 books off of his bookshelf while the teacher was giving him instructions. Now, the facts stay the same, right? And I have one thought, he should listen to the teacher. And this creates frustration for me. And then I have another thought, he is 5 years old, and of course he doesn't want to sit still. And this creates compassion for me, right? I feel compassion. You see, I can have a different thought, right, about the same facts and have a different feeling. We can see in this example how the facts didn't change, just my thought about the facts. And this creates a different feeling for me. So this shows how my thoughts create my feelings and not the facts, not my son's behavior, not the outside world. So if my son's behavior isn't creating my feelings, which we just showed, right, then trying to change or control my son's behavior wouldn't work to feel better because he is not the cause of my feelings in the first place. My thoughts are. And therefore, I can feel better without trying to change or control him. Controlling his behavior doesn't need to work to feel better. I don't need to change or control his behavior to feel better. As you see, I can feel compassion without his behavior changing. I just have to think a different thought. Now, this doesn't mean I don't parent him. Any parents out there may be thinking that. But I can simply choose on purpose how to do so. I can decide to parent him from a compassionate, loving, understanding, supportive place if I choose to. Or I can stay parenting him from frustration or any other feeling that I choose. I'm just doing so intentionally. I'm deciding intentionally how I want to, what feeling I want to have, what thoughts I want to have, which leads me to the solution. I want to give you the way to have real control, which is inward control. Now, this simple shift from shifting your control inward instead of outward is everything. When you shift your focus from outward to inward, it can really benefit your life. Now, why? How? To stop chasing a false sense of control. To be in control, feel better, and show up intentionally. To enjoy your life and the people around you more. This simple shift focuses on what you can control, which is you. Inward control is turning your control inward on yourself, focusing on your thoughts and feelings. This is where your power exists. You do not have control over others. They don't have control over you. You do not have control over the past. And we often do not have control over the things that are happening outside of us in the world. But you do have all the control over your thoughts and feelings, no matter what anyone else says or does or anything that is happening around you. This is the best news. You have the power to focus on what thoughts serve you. You have the power to let go of thoughts that don't serve you. You have the power to create feelings intentionally and to have the experience that you choose to have, no matter what is occurring around you, no matter what is happening in the world, no matter how people are behaving, no matter what they're saying. By turning your control inward instead of outward, you are being your most powerful and in control self. Let's look at how inward control looks when applied to the same example of my son in virtual kindergarten. When I'm turning my control inward, I'm focused on my thought he should listen to the teacher. And I know that this thought is creating my feeling of frustration, not what he is doing or not doing. When I make this shift to inward control, now I don't have to change or control him at all because he was never the cause of my feelings. Instead, I can turn my control inward and decide intentionally what I want to think and feel on purpose, no matter what's occurring around me. I can decide intentionally what I want to think and feel to create my actions and create my results that I want to have. Now, it is important to know and remember that thoughts are not facts. Thoughts are not facts. We separated out the facts earlier, and thoughts are optional. We can question them to see what we may want to keep or not keep. We can try on new thoughts to have a different experience if we want to. This is so fun. Now, the facts are only my son was not sitting in a seat. He took 5 books off of his bookshelf while his teacher was giving him instructions. And my original thought, which is optional, is he should listen to the teacher. Now I can apply inward control and decide if I want to keep this thought or focus on a different thought. So let's go back to that question I asked you earlier. If someone changed in some way, behaved how you wanted them to, did or said something, or stopped doing something, right? Stop behaving in some way, how do you think you would feel? How are you wanting to feel? Whatever feeling this is that you typed in the Q&A, you can create this feeling for yourself because you are in control of your thoughts and feelings. You can focus on what thought will create this feeling for you. Now, here are some questions to help you create these new believable thoughts, to help you create the feelings that you want to create, if you decide to. You can loosen your grip on that original thought to see other possible experiences that you could have with the same facts. So you can ask yourself, how could I be wrong about this thought? How is this perfect? How is it perfect that my son is taking books off the shelf and not listening to the teacher? What really matters to me? What am I making this mean? How are we all human and perfectly imperfect? Now, just check in with yourself if the new thoughts that you are thinking are believable to you. I recommend that they are believable in order for you to have a genuine feeling from that thought. Now, here are some examples of some of my believable thoughts about the same facts: that my son was not sitting in a seat, took 5 books off of the bookshelf, and he while the teacher was giving him instructions. Of course, he doesn't want to sit still. He is 5 years old. I don't always want to listen to others as well. I love him no matter what. And from these new thoughts, from these new believable thoughts, I create new feelings for myself, such as understanding, compassion, and love. Now, you can always keep your original thought. Of course, this is an option, but I suggest doing it consciously, intentionally. Apply the inward control by choosing the thought and feeling on purpose. Now, it's also important to know that the purpose and the goal is not to always feel happy and feel better. Sometimes we want to feel sad, in pain, hurt. The goal and purpose is to decide intentionally. I can choose to feel frustrated on purpose and know it's coming from my thought. He should listen to the teacher. If I decide to keep this thought and feeling, I'm just doing so intentionally. So let's recap how to apply inward control. Well, 1, you take responsibility for your own feelings. You create your feelings. No one and nothing else can do this. 2, have awareness of what thoughts are creating your feelings. Be the watcher of your thoughts. Observe them. See what's going on. See how you feel when you think them. And 3, decide on purpose. Decide on purpose which thoughts you want to think. You're in control of your experience, and you can decide intentionally. Now, something I want to mention: when you are being the watcher of your thoughts, I suggest not to judge them. Have compassion for yourself. You may find yourself thinking, well, why am I thinking that? That's horrible. Just have compassion and don't judge your thoughts. They're just sentences. And you have the power to decide on purpose which thoughts that you want to focus on. All right, inward control. How can turning your control inward on your thoughts and feelings benefit your life and your relationships? You are not trying to make others behave in certain ways in order to feel better, because you are in control of your feelings, not them. You are owning what you are responsible for, your feelings, and you're not putting this responsibility onto anyone else. This is so empowering and freeing. You are energizing yourself instead of exhausting yourself by focusing on what you actually have control over, which is you. Because as we discussed, it's impossible to control others, and it's so exhausting to try. And number 4, no matter what is occurring around you, you can have any experience that you want. This is control at its highest level. Being able to have any experience that you choose, no matter what's happening around you, no matter what people are saying, no matter how they're behaving. You are not at the effect of others or the world. Outward control and inward control. Let's sum this up. So outward control, it weakens you. You give your power away. It's impossible to obtain and creates a disconnection when we try. So I suggest let other people be who they are and turn your control inward to stop the suffering you are creating for yourself. When you turn your control inward, you empower yourself and you control what you actually have control over, which is you. You open up for opportunities to create connection with yourself and others. You live intentionally by deciding on purpose how you want to think, feel, and act. You're deciding on purpose what experience you want to have. All right, so if you have any questions at all, jump in the Q&A now and you can ask away. And if anyone wants to come on for coaching, just raise your hand and I'll pull you on. that's not what I want to do. There we go. Trying to move some stuff around here. All right. Does anyone want to come on for coaching? Anyone have a problem they want to work on? Let me go to participants. Oh, we have someone. Oh. All right. Raise your hand if you want coaching. Okay. I'm going to stop sharing. I think that will help. There we go. Hi. I can't hear you. Can you unmute yourself? All right. I don't know what happened. Anyone else want coaching? Oh. Hi.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
I'm having difficulty with my reception here. I'm from Ireland.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
Or the north of Ireland.
Yeah. All right. So what do you want coaching on today?
No, I don't know exactly. For me personally, what I find is I'm involved with committees where mostly men are on the committee, and I find there's a lot of controlling behaviour,
Okay.
and it's managing that in a constructive way. That there's one particular person in question. He's a solicitor, and well, it's basically I believe about control, and they try to control everything, and when there
Okay.
are issues, kind of they have a way of deflecting away from whatever the issues are that need to be addressed, maybe personal attitudes or behavior. That's just what my issue is with.
Okay.
It's
Can you tell me?
managing that.
Yeah. Can you tell me about a specific example? A specific time that
Yeah,
this?
well, when I would put in applications for funding to do a project, it's an Irish language organisation, and for example, I would do a lot of cross community,
Mm-hmm.
and this particular individual has two children in the system, and he wants to control everything in their favour, and he doesn't want to work with cross communities, so he tries to steer away from that and try to control it by he decides who, say for example, goes on the trip or gets involved in the project, and it's managing that in a way that it's well, I usually stand firm in a nice positive way and adhere to the terms and conditions. But he does this with other people as well. It's about control, I think.
Mm-hmm. And how exactly is what is he doing?
I think he wants to control every situation. He tries to, or maybe even sabotage it to some degree.
Okay. How is he
um,
doing it? So I'm just trying to get the facts, right? So,
well, for example, if I get funding for a cross community trip,
mm-hmm.
it's about community relations here in the north of Ireland. It's about building relationships between two main traditions. He wants to decide who goes on the trip rather than reaching out to our partnering community. He wants it to be more internal.
Okay.
That's an example.
Yeah. So he wants to decide who goes on the trip. How is he? Is he speaking up, saying he wants certain people to go on the trip?
Yes, as soon as he hears about it, he just comes straight in, and he's starting to decide who. For example, I run a Gaelic program, an Irish speaking group or a
Mm-hmm.
Gaelic group, and I work with a Scots Gaelic group. But we bring the cross community into that because of the connections between Scotland and Ireland and the Unionist tradition. And so they've been coming over here for quite some time. And just last year, not last year, but 2019, I got funding to go for 30. It was an intergenerational group, cross community group. And he immediately was deciding how many from the Unionist tradition would go. But that's not what the criteria was or what the terms and conditions of the funder. And he referred to it as, I think, the children who won't get a holiday this year should go on that trip. And he was dismissing everyone else. That's how he would go about it.
Okay. So he said,
It's for 10 people from Unionist tradition, 10 children and one parent from each family, depending on the number. And there was a criteria for the age group as well, but his children didn't actually fit into the criteria, but he wanted to adapt that for his own personal interest.
So he said the children should get to go on the trip?
Yes.
Okay.
He wanted both himself and his wife to go on it. And he was deciding, he said, oh, we can have 5 people from the Unionist tradition. And I said, no, we can't, because in the terms and conditions of the funder, it states very clearly the breakdown of the group. And I'm the one who applied for the funding, and I'm the one that has to implement the project and account for it accordingly and give the details, personal details of every individual who goes on the trip and what group they represent. But he was forcing the issue.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't get his own way in the end. But that's an example of what
Yeah.
he does.
No, it's great. So him saying the children should get to go on the trip. That's his words. Those are the facts, right?
Yes.
Now, what do you think about that?
Well, he wanted to control the breakdown of the people who went on the group. He wanted his children to go on it.
Yeah. And you don't think he shouldn't do that?
Yeah. It was the children who attended the secondary Irish school from our group that went, and then we were teaming up with another group, a cross community link that works with children of that age group. It was children from 11 to 13 or 11 to 14, if I remember, was the age group.
Mm-hmm.
That was the target group. And but because he said to me once, keep this going and we'll get over this. Is a few years before, so that was his objective, that he wanted a trip over to Scotland. That's just one example of how.
So he says the children should get to go on the trip. And what are you making that mean?
Pardon?
What are you making that mean?
Well, he wanted to control it. He wanted to control it in favor of his own family. And he also said, I think the other children who should go on this should be the children who won't get a holiday this year. But that's not what that's not what the project is about. It's about bringing people together. They were actually going to attend a feis, a Gaelic feis, where they would have different workshops, language, music, singing, dance, drama. And then at the end of that 5-day period, to finish off the week, they presented a show where they all participated, and they did it through the Gaelic and the Gaelic, because there's strong similarities in the language. And that was the purpose of it, of bringing people together But his objective was he wanted him and his wife to go because he really wanted. I think he just wanted to benefit from it.
Yeah. So he says the children should get to go on the trip. And you
Yeah.
think he wants to, your thought about it, right, is he wants to control in favor of his own family. Now, when
Yeah.
you think that, how do you feel?
Well, my initial feelings were I was a bit frustrated, but I could
Yeah.
feel myself getting frustrated because there's a pattern of this behaviour with every time we get funding, he wants to control it in his own interest, and
Mm-hmm.
he wants to divert from the, the the purpose of it. And to me, it's about personal gain. That's how I read it. And I could feel myself, and I thought, no, I'm just going to remain calm, and I'm going to uh, relate the facts to him, which I did, and
Mm-hmm.
it worked out in the end. But I could see that he was coming in at that stage to challenge because he had his own objective and he wanted to control it in his own personal interest for him and his family and some
Yeah.
of his friends as well. So I said, I got out the letter of offer and it was written in Irish, he doesn't have any Irish, and I read it out to him and I said, these are the terms and conditions. The funder decides. They dictate the terms and conditions, and we have to adhere to that. We can't divert from that unless I will have to go back to the funder. And if we can't get enough children of this age group, then we could maybe divert. We could maybe change that and bring in some children to make up if they're not available, because it was happening during the summer holidays. And that's exactly what happened, because some people already had made plans well in advance. So we did have a few children who didn't fit into the category, that age group category. So I contacted the funder and they approved it. But and that's the way to deal with it, because he specifically wanted his way in the start, and that's his pattern all the time.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you feel frustrated, right, when you think he wants to control in
Yeah,
favor of his own family.
yeah.
And when you felt frustrated, when you're feeling this feeling, how did you act? What did you do? How did you behave?
Well, initially, I recognized that that's how I felt. I did
Yeah.
recognize, and I was very direct and firm with him. I didn't raise my voice or anything. I just said, um, I think, Sean, you need to read the terms and conditions as defined by the funder. I have them here in the letter of offer, and I read them out. And I said, we will need to prioritize with their terms and conditions. And if at this stage we find that parents have other plans, we have to offer this to the children of the age group that fit the criteria for the funding. And but I knew by his face that he specifically wanted to go, and it worked
And
out in
is,
the end that he did go, and I didn't have a problem with him going, but it's the fact that he wants to control it at that
yeah.
stage. But he did.
Why is
He
that a
did.
problem?
Pardon?
Why is that a problem? That he wants to control it.
Yeah, he wants. He wants to. He
So why is
doesn't
that a
want.
problem though?
Why is that a problem?
Mm-hmm.
Because he's not fulfilling or we're not as a group, we're not fulfilling our obligations to do what is defined by the funder, because that's what we have to account for.
So
And
what my question is, he wants to control it, but that doesn't mean he really is, right? Because you're staying firm, you're saying the things, you're reading,
yeah,
you're staying true to the founder or whatever it is, right?
yeah, yeah.
So why is it a problem that he wants to control?
Well, it's not really a problem. It's just that I think he how would I put this? It's not. It's the fact that he wastes time and creates unnecessary debates that could be avoided.
Yeah.
If
Well, here's the thing, which is so great, is that, the only way that an argument or a debate can happen is if the other person's involved as well, right?
yeah, yeah,
So he can try and say things, he can try and do
mhm,
things, but it doesn't have to affect you. It doesn't.
yeah,
So right
no,
now you're feeling frustrated, right? Because
no,
of,
I'm personally not really. I have learned to deal with him in that way
yeah.
because he has of this behavior, and I think sometimes he likes to come in. I think he likes to. I don't know what his motive is, but he does like to personally gain from any of these trips or projects. And I think he likes to control it because it's all about me.
Hmm.
And um, he he uh, I think he likes to get a reaction, but he doesn't get one anymore. I
Yeah,
don't get
that's
a
great.
reaction.
So do you still feel frustrated when he says those things or some feeling of that sort?
Well, I haven't seen him for quite a while because of COVID. So um, I think, no, I think I've learned to deal with it. I've taken a different approach to it now. That's why I want to talk to just briefly through it, because
Yeah.
I think when he doesn't get a reaction, then it doesn't go anywhere for him.
Yeah, because you have control over how you think about
Yes,
what he says. So that's where your control lies. You can't
yes,
control if he says the words that, the children should get to go on the trip. And
yeah,
him saying those words can't make you feel anything until you have a thought about it. So your thought about it, right, until you changed it, right? Like initially, it was he wants to control in favor of his own family. And that
yeah,
created your feeling of frustration. Then you had
yeah,
a different thought that had you feel calm, right? And then you showed up in that way. But it's great to know that his words, no matter what he says, can't make you
exactly.
feel frustrated
Yeah.
because
So
you are the only one in control of how you feel. So
yes,
next time he shows up and wants to control the situation in some way by saying words or doing something, you know that you are in control of your feelings. And you can stay with frustration. That is totally an option as well. Just knowing that you're choosing intentionally by the thoughts that you're thinking.
I'm consciously making that decision. I'm not
Exactly.
reacting to it. I'm
Yeah.
making a conscious decision.
Yeah. That's great. And then you can feel frustration within your body because feelings are just vibrations, right? So we can
Yeah,
feel them go through us and we don't have to react to them, which it sounds like that's what you did,
yeah, yeah.
right?
Yes, and I didn't back down. I adhered to the terms and conditions, and I prioritized by contacting the relevant children who were involved in the youth group. And then I went back to him, and then his children were able to go because some people already planned their holidays and it worked out in that sense. But there's a pattern here, and I recognize a pattern. But it's good to be able to talk that out
Yeah.
because I can when I don't react, I'm keeping my own power, as it were.
Hmm. Exactly.
And
So you are having the power within your feelings, right? So you're
yeah,
having the power within your body to feel that feeling
yeah,
strengthens you by having that feeling within you and
mm,
not reacting, but instead allowing it. And then you can move to the feeling of calm,
yeah,
right? Or whatever feeling you choose to. Or you can stay with frustration as well and let it be
yeah.
within you. So that's where
I
you have your choices, right?
I do think that this individual does like to be in control. He has that type of personality, and I think I think he regards himself as being superior to others, and therefore what he says goes.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think he has uh, personal. His objective is that he wants to benefit from all these trips, and it's all about me. So he doesn't like to work with rules, and so in recent times, I've dealt with him. I always stand. I adhere to the terms and conditions if I am planning or implementing something. And I mean, I've had to challenge him on other issues as well in the past. And when he doesn't get his own way, he can be quite vindictive. But I don't let that get to me.
Yeah. So it sounds like he's showing up as himself kind of consistently.
Yes,
How does
yes,
that feel to you? Yeah. So, next time you can be like, he's being very consistent with how he's reacting. If he does that, right? How does that feel to you to think that?
just keep calm. Don't react. And I can make that conscious decision in my head. And I'm glad I'm having this conversation because I do believe it will come up again in the future. And when the issue raises its head in whatever context, I can say, no, I'm not reacting to this. I'm remaining calm and I'm keeping my own power and I'm not allowing uh, this response from you, this incident to stir up negative feelings within
Yeah,
me.
that's great to have that awareness, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And it's also nice to look at, sometimes I'd like to look at why the other person might be saying those words or why they might be wanting something, right? Or behaving in some way.
Yeah.
And then
I've,
you can
I've,
kind of drop into a little bit of compassion or understanding, as in like, well, he's being him, he's being human in some way.
Mhm.
How does that feel to you?
Oh, I do. I've already identified that. I think he is very focused on his family. I would be very, and I admire him for that.
Yeah.
He takes a great interest in his children, and I do admire that. Um, but in many cases, and previous to that, we had secured funding to do a cross community project, and it was sharing culture to develop with a particular within an age range, and the objective of the funder was to educate young people about each other's cultures, with a view to developing an acceptance of each other and developing a positive citizenship.
Mm-hmm.
And we were going to be working with a group from the Union tradition, and they have a very strong affinity with the Ulster Scots and Scotland. And I had suggested that some of the trips that we would do would be to an Ulster Scots centre, and that we would bring them up to the Gaeltacht, up an Irish-speaking area in Donegal. But he didn't want to do that. He wanted to do abseiling. And I remained calm, and I said, but when, how does that connect with the objectives of the funder? How are you going to write reports and say how you've met their targets? How are you sharing
Mm-hmm.
culture by doing abseiling?
Okay.
I mean, to me, there's no connection with abseiling
Yeah.
and culture. So I thought about it. I didn't get raised about it, but initially I could feel myself thinking, no, I had suggested that we did a drama in English, and I discussed this with the funder. That I asked our community relations officer from the local council, who was our funder, to come to a meeting with himself and myself, and just to discuss what activities we were planning to do. And I had suggested that we do a drama in English, but with two facilitators, one who was an Irish speaker and someone else who was from the Ulster Scots tradition, because there are strong similarities in the traditions, in the language, the tradition, the sport, and so I had proposed that we do this and bring in phrases in Irish and English, bring in the music, which is very similar. You could have similar cultural traditions, which is Céilín. If you know what Céilín is, it's visiting in other people's houses. That's an old tradition.
Okay.
Even the food. So I had proposed that, but he didn't want to work with somebody from the Ulster Scots, and he said we could do it in English. We could do it all in English. We wouldn't have to. And I said, but that's a breach of your memorandum, because it states clearly in our memorandum that our objective is to promote the Irish language through education, the arts, history. And I said this would come under the umbrella of the arts. So in that, we are introducing the children or the young people, and they are working with the facilitators in planning, and they would take ownership for developing it. And we could bring in phrases like Ganzi, and we could bring on the food, and they're actually sharing, they're doing this naturally, and they will be building up relationships and friendships and taking ownership, and it'll be interesting to give them some responsibility. And so when I said it's a breach of your memorandum, I kind of backed off at that stage. So I said, we can't do it solely in English. We have to enter it. And you can't expect children coming in from an English speaking background that don't have any Irish. It's not realistic to expect them to come in and speak in fluent Irish to do a group in pure Irish, or just do it all in English, because that's a breach of your memorandum, and it doesn't capture what you're meant to be doing for the funder. It doesn't capture the objectives of the funder. So we backed off at that stage.
Yeah. So it's good to pull your power back to you, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he can say and do and behave in any way he's going to. And then it's just you can have your experience of the situation. So
Yeah.
the thoughts you have are going to create your feelings, right? And that's okay if they create negative feelings, right? You can let
Yeah.
yourself feel that, process that through, and knowing that you are creating this for you. And he's showing up as him. And that's okay, right?
Yeah. It's how
When you
I
can,
manage that. It's how I
yeah,
manage that
yeah.
react. Yeah.
That's great. So it's just next time being like, okay, he's probably going to show up consistently as him, and I can just drop into my power. I can feel the feelings I'm feeling, choose my my thoughts intentionally if I choose to.
Yep. And before I would speak, I would have done my homework basically and be very sure about what information I want to impart or say, and back that up with logic. Um, so, and if you're adhering to all of that within the terms and conditions of the funder, then it doesn't matter because you still have that all has to be accounted for. But I think people who don't actually do the work, they don't actually see that side of it.
Yeah.
They just see an opportunity.
Yeah. And you can also, a good exercise is to write down all of your thoughts about this person, right? Whatever they might be, and then choose intentionally how you want to think about them. So, and this is for you, not for them. It's for you. If you want to feel a specific feeling, if you want to feel calm or better or good or relief or whatever it is, right? You can feel that feeling intentionally by the thoughts that you choose to focus on. So I know you mentioned a couple of thoughts earlier about him being a dedicated family person, right? A good father or whatever it might be. If those bring you a good feeling,
yes,
you could focus on those if you wanted to, right? And
and
that's for you.
I admire him for that. I certainly do. I really
Yeah.
admire him, family and their education and their development, and giving them providing them with opportunities in life, and that's really. I really appreciate that. I mean, as a father, and I admire that. But yes, well, I think some people have actually left the committee because of his behaviour
Yeah.
and overreacted. But I've decided, I made a decision that I'm not going anywhere because I believe in what we're doing, and we've made a lot of progress in the context of building community relationships with people from a different background, and that's very important here in Ireland.
That's good. And that seems important to you. So you can focus on that, right? You can focus on that thought of yours. And however he shows up, he shows up.
Yeah.
And you can handle it.
We're doing it through the culture and the language, which is a big focus here. Which is, I don't know if you're aware of this the challenges, I call them challenges, that we have here in Ireland, trying to build peace. And I think it's very important that children engage or interact at an early age with people from a different community.
Yeah.
And
That's awesome.
they build that respect, because the title of our project that we had adopted sometime when I first started doing this work was Sharing Our Similarities, Celebrating Our Differences, which reflects the philosophy of accepting and respecting difference. And it's reaching out to people, and they're different, but we accept and respect them. And that's my way.
That's nice. Well, thank you for coming on and sharing that with me.
I will. Thank
so
you
I
so
hope,
much.
Yeah, of course. All right. Well, thank you. And I'm going to send you back to panelists if I can figure out how. Hold on.
And take good care and keep up the good work.
Thank you. You too. Sorry, 1 second. Trying to send you back. That's not working. Gonna figure this out. Participants. Oh, here we go. I'm sorry about that. I found it. Goodbye. All right. Okay, so we have a question from Katie. I'm gonna pop in the Q&A, answer that, and then I think we'll be done. Okay, so Katie was wondering, how can this help with arguments with a partner? All right. Well, you have full control over your thoughts and feelings always. So you can't control what your partner is going to say, how they're going to behave, but you can control what you think and feel about what they're saying, right? And how they're behaving. So I suggest, if you do feel a feeling when the partner says something, know that it's coming from your thought. Pull your power back to you. Know that your feeling is coming from you. That's where your control is, right? And you can process that feeling through. You don't have to react to it. You can feel that feeling, choose it intentionally if you want to, and then go back and choose the feeling that you really do want to feel, right? So you don't have to stay with anger or frustration or annoyance, right? Whatever it might be that comes up for you. You can let yourself feel it, move to what you do want to feel instead by thinking those intentional thoughts. So if you want to feel love towards your partner or connected, you can create that by your thinking, no matter what they're doing, no matter how they're showing up, no matter what they're saying to you. Or you can choose to feel hurt, in pain, annoyed. You can totally choose those on purpose. Just pulling your control back and knowing that it's not what they're saying and doing that's creating it for you. It's how you're thinking about it. So oftentimes in arguments, we are in arguments because we think we're right and we think they're wrong, right? So I like to step back and question that and be like, how am I wrong? How is he or she right? Right? So it's questioning it, and it's questioning that thought that you're having in the first place. And also, how can we both be right and how can we both be wrong? Finding that common ground. All right. Well, thanks everyone for coming. And I hope you can apply this to your life and turn your control inward instead of outward if you choose to. And have a great day. All right. I'll see you later. Bye.